Recite the second salawat, please. The first step to eliminate the problems within the family is to have an open dialogue, to hear one another. You have to have the ability to hear one another. First and foremost, many of our sisters come to me, they say, Sayyid, I have a problem with my husband. I have an issue with my husband. I say to her, sister, why don't you tell your husband? She said, Sayyid, I cannot speak to him. He doesn't listen to me. And even if I try to speak to him, he says, don't speak to me now. Speak to me after I come back from work. When he comes back from work, I cannot speak now. I'm tired. On the weekends, I have to relax. And the problems built up and built up until there's an explosion. And the explosion is called divorce. And that is why the number of divorce is skyrocketing in our communities. Likewise, the wife has to have the ability to listen to her husband. Many women think that they're the only ones that need emotion. They're the only ones that need love. They're the only ones that need to be listened to. That's not right. You also need to speak to your husband and hear about his problems. You also need to hear about his difficulties. Husbands and wives, especially those who adhere to the following of Ahl al-Bayt, need to have open dialogue, to hear each other. You cannot have a healthy relationship without communication. Then, the children must listen to their parents. Don't say, my parents, they're speaking things from 40 years ago, now the world has changed, they're always wrong. Every time a parent wants to speak to her daughter, she says to her, no, you cannot speak to me, you depress me, you limit me, you do not care about me, you don't trust me. And you slam the door in her face. You have to listen to your parents. If your father or your mother want to speak to you, at least you have to have the courtesy to listen to them. Even if they are wrong, the Quran says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا مَعْرُوفًا. And of course, the parents have to listen to their children. Even if your child is 5 years old and he or she has something to say to you, allow them to express themselves. Allow them to speak. Because if you do not allow them to speak their mind, then they will always be shy to express themselves, express their emotions, express what's on their mind. So when they go to school, they cannot express themselves. When they are at work, they cannot express themselves. When they get married and they have a family, they do not know how to express themselves. And you then will limit their success. You will limit their abilities. Teach them to express themselves. Hear them. Especially if they become teenagers. You think it's easy to be a teenager in this country? It's not. And you have to hear about their problems. If you are not the one that listens to them, they will keep on going astray. Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq says, بادروا أولادكم بالحديث قبل أن يأتيهم الخبيث. He said, begin the communication, begin the dialogue with your children before someone else that is a khabith, that is malicious, that has the wrong agenda to come and speak to your children. And do you know what children listen to in this country? In the year 2007, Time magazine had the 100 most influential Americans. And we live in America, right? Do we? Or do we live in Afghanistan? We live in America. We don't live in Iran. We don't live in Iraq. We live in America. So we have to see who's influential in this country. 2007, Time magazine, 100 most influential people in America. Number 1 was a rap artist by the name of 50 Cent. A criminal, a person that degrades women, a person that has a history of crime, a person that will only poison the mind of your children. He's influential in America. And guess what? All kids listen to him. But he's not worth anything more than 50 cents. So who's going to speak to your children? Who's going to admonish your kids? Number 1, you. And number 2, it is your duty to support Islamic institutions and whatever surrounds those Islamic institutions that speak the language of your children. Don't say we have to speak in Arabic, we have to speak in Urdu, we have to speak in Farsi. Why? So you can get the pleasure of hearing your native language? And you say your children, let them be? Is this what Islam teaches us? You have to support such institutions. And you have to support the individuals that come forward with such agendas. Because they are giving prosperity to your children, to your lives, to your families. Second area of communication is in the community. Today, many communities do not have an open dialogue with the leadership. And I'll try to be brief but yet precise. Imam Hussein salawatullahi alayhi, after they gave the bay'ah, the people of Kufa gave the bay'ah to Muslim ibn Aqil. He wrote to the people of Kufa as the commander-in-chief, as the leader, as the khalifa, as the imam. He wrote to them, وَأَمَّا بَعْدْ فَبَعْدَ بَيْعَتِكُمْ هَذِهِ وُلْدِي مَعَ وُلْدِكُمْ وَأَهْلِي مَعَ أَهْلِيكُمْ وَنَفْسِي مَعَ نَفْسِكُمْ. He said, after your allegiance, my children will become part of your children. I will not differentiate. My family will become part of your families, and I will become part of you. When one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen describes Amir al-Mu'mineen to Muawiyah, he says to him, Safli aliyan, tell me, who's this Ali that you love so much? He says, Wallah kana ka'ahadina. One of his qualities is that he was one of us. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he went to Kufa, and he declared Kufa to be his capital, the first sermon he gave to the people of Kufa, he says, وَأَمَّا بَعْدْ فَإِنَّ لَكُمْ عَلَيَّ حُقُوقٌ وَإِنَّ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ حُقُوقًا. He says, you have rights over me and I have rights over you. Which leader today comes and says you have rights over me? Which leader today says to his people that you have rights over me? What is his rights? Imagine. أَنْ لَا أُخْفِي عَنْكُمْ سِرًّا. There's no secrets. Anything you ask me, I have to tell you. إِلَّا فِي حَرْبٍ. Except in battle. In battle I will not, because it will jeopardize you. Second, وَأَنْ تَعْلَمُوا خَرَاجَ بَيْتِ الْمَالِ. And you will know the cent and the penny in the Baytul Mal. I let the rest for you. You think about the statements of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Which leader today comes and says this to his people? Today, we must understand that there has to be transparency in our communities and open dialogue. And another element that we have to understand is that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, Sayyidul qawmi khadimuhum. The leader in a community or a society or a nation, خادمهم is their servant. It doesn't mean the community treats him like a servant, no. It means that he serves them. They came to Amir al-Mu'mineen. They said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why do you sit behind the door of your house? Why don't you sit inside your house? And the dazzling heat of Kufa, you sit behind your door? Why don't you sit inside? He said, listen, if a Muslim came to me and he knocked at my door, by the time I leave my bedroom and I come and open the door for him, I have wasted the time of the Ummah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. This is how Ali was. There is no other way to do it.